Hey everybody, welcome to our live stream. This is Bobby Umar here, and I'm here doing our monthly live stream for the TLB Club, which is my membership community for thought leadership, brand building, and business building. And today's topic this month is networking for your job search. I brought in some amazing speakers and experts across a broad range of areas. So what's really great about this is that you're going to have people here who are going to serve you in different ways. And if you are watching this is mostly on LinkedIn live stream, but it's also streaming on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook and Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. Like we're everywhere. So wherever you are, I first thing I'll ask you to say, hey, comment, engage, tell us where you are. Where are you calling in from? North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia. That's great. Let us know what city you're from. And if you have any questions around your job search, by all means do that. We're happy to have you be part of that conversation. So definitely show up and let us know where you're coming in from, and I'll try to feature some of the comments, especially the ones that'll show up on LinkedIn. All right. So thanks so much for being here, and let's get right into actually introductions so people know who we are and what we're talking about. I will start with the top and start with you, Sweta. Please go ahead and introduce yourself around the topic.
Oh, absolutely. Well, my name is Sweta Regmi. I am joining you from Canada. I'm a certified career strategist and certified resume strategist. And today we're going to talk about networking. And I'll be speaking on behalf of the community I serve very closely, which are immigrants, diaspora, and newcomers to Canada, and also as a hiring manager from the top companies that I've hired through. I mean, it could have been networking, it could be much more than that. So I'm definitely going to talk about those.
Awesome. Kenneth, go ahead.
Hi, Kenneth Lang here. I'm in northern New Jersey, right outside of New York City. I'm speaking from a different perspective. As someone who is of a certain age, I speak to people, job seekers 45 and older. Many of them are struggling with how to network, what to do to network. I work at Lee Harrison as a brand specialist, and one of the challenges I see now is a lot of people who have lost their jobs really don't know how to get started, whether it's network or anything else. And one of my mantras is jump in, the LinkedIn water's fine. Same thing with jump in networking. Don't be afraid to network. Don't be afraid to get involved. Bobby, we first met years ago in Clubhouse. Sweta, I've been following your content for a while, and it's great to actually meet in person or actually, on this call. So, Bobby, take it away.
Okay, great. And I'm just messaging Ritika, who's saying that something has come up and might be difficult to come by. So my apologies on Ritika's behalf to not be able to make it today. So it's there's actually several. It's three experts today, which is totally fine, and I'm going to have to edit this thing. But a little bit about myself, guys. I'm a motivational speaker by trade. Over the last I guess 20 years, I've done 1,000 keynotes and workshops across 4 continents. I speak mostly on leadership, soft skills, and the first thing I became known as an expert for was networking. I became the networking guy. I wrote a book on networking called How to Network Anywhere, Anytime with Anyone, which became a bestseller. And then after that, I started getting into personal branding and thought leadership and digital influence and LinkedIn and things like that. And it all related to the topic of networking anyways. For me, I focus on helping people, network better and build meaningful relationships, because at the end of the day, they are the cornerstone of everything we're trying to do in our world and in our lives. So that's really why I'm doing that. It looks like people are already commenting on the chat, which is great. So we already have all those people coming in here. So there's Meryl who's coming in here saying hello. We've got, there's Gregory from cold Winnipeg, as I like to say. It's very cold there. And then Meryl, of course, is sharing you more comments, which is fantastic. So, let's get right into it. I mean, I think that I'll start with Kenneth. You say you're the LinkedIn introvert, which is interesting. But we'll get to the introversion piece later. Sure. But I guess from your standpoint, why is networking so important?
Well, it's so important because a lot of people don't network until they actually have lost a job. So that's the worst time. You want to always be networking, build your reputation, stay in touch with people, because you never know when you're going to need help. And the worst time to ask for help is when you're desperate. So a big part of it is staying in touch. And networking doesn't have to be this major, scary word. It can be checking with people. It can be attending events, and it can be being part of a conversation. When I was out of work, and I've been out of work before, The hardest thing for me to do is to get out there and talk to people and feel comfortable with that. But once you do it, you find out you're not alone. And that's a big part of networking. You know, you're not going through the process alone. So that's my take on it, from someone who, again, we have all different issues that we deal with, but it's no excuse. You should always be networking, not just when you need to.
Sweta, what's your take?
Oh my God, totally agreeing to Kenneth on it, because I can personally relate to my journey. I was working in the corporate world, top bank in Canada. I got promoted probably 9 times out of 12 years. And it was all through being qualified, plus the networking, influencing the influencer inside. However, after working there, I was laid off in 1 minute over the phone. All my networks. I had a work BlackBerry. It was given to me, and I cut off my cell phone as well. I was like, who's going to pay for this when the work is giving me the free BlackBerry, right? So I had a work laptop, and I had a very old computer, and everything I had, my contacts and everything, internal contacts, everything was done. Did I know that I'd be laid off? No. And that's when it hit me. Oh my gosh, I don't have anybody outside of my life. internal employees and everything, and I had to really start from scratch in there. And that's when it hit me. I wish I had a lot of networking done when I was actually employed, and I kind of became very desperate, and I've learned it from my own journey of LinkedIn. I was put in actually in a LinkedIn jail, when I was new job seeker, because I was sending the invitation after invitations, cold DMs without the particular strategy. And I've learned a lot from that journey of where I failed and the lessons that I've learned it. And this is what I teach in my program, One Size Does Not Fit All, because I was doing everything, the same script to everybody without doing the research and everything like that. And this is when I realized, look, when you're unemployed, your networking should be totally different strategy, versus if you want the promotions internally, your networking strategy should be different. And it also depends on the privilege that you have as well. How do you network? Is it all about, hey, I need the job? Or is it all about identifying your SWOT, which is, are you going to flaunt your strength? Is that why you're reaching out to people? Hey, I have this, hire me, kind of thing? Or do you want to set up the sessions, the information sessions, where I need to learn so much about this industry? What are the tools out there, right? It's kind of like a threat, an opportunity for you if you were targeting a particular role. And these are all things that it's part of networking. So what I tell people now is, before you start networking, hitting that DM on, be very clear, right? And then making sure that you do the soul searching. That's it.
Awesome. And look, I'll tell a story for me, where I realized networking was important. I think in the early days, I didn't do very much networking, and I always was a people guy. But when I was my first job as an engineer, I similar to what Sweta said, I built a musical theater company, and I grew this organization, a nonprofit organization, mostly because of relationships I was making. I was like, okay, you know what, the connections are really working for me. And then when I lost my engineering job, I had nothing. I had no leads in the engineering space. And I was like, man, like I didn't even think about that. And so I was kind of wandering around trying to figure out what to do for a long time. And so I realized after that I need to be out there and talking to people and, planting those seeds. Because the other thing that happened was, then when I got my second phase of, and so when I did my MBA, I became super networker, networking like crazy. And I was like, okay, let me do this. And I remember also the first 2 weeks of my MBA, everyone knew who I was, and because we had this weekend away with all the like 300 MBA students, and I made it my goal to try to meet people. And by the time the weekend was done, I had memorized about 100 people's names, and I knew who they were. And when we're in the hallways after, hey guys, hey Phil, hey Gladys, hey Samantha, how's it going? Okay, yeah, And next thing you know, this guy friend comes over to me, Bobby, hey, you ever thought about running for MBA Association president? I was like, oh, that's interesting, because I was making an impact. People were thinking about me in that sense, and I think it made a big impact. So definitely learned my lesson back in the day, and I think it's important for us to do that. I mean, cultivating relationships is a cornerstone of everything: business, job searching, even personal relationships, even dating. Like it just helps in all different areas. But I want to take, and people are sharing comments and questions, which is great. We love that. We want to get your questions in here. I see a lot of people sharing some great stuff here. So what I'd like to see is some questions for the panel. Networks like depositing money in the bank, you withdraw later. Yeah, I love that little analogy. Networks all about them, not about you. Sure. So let me start with, I'm going to take this in a completely different direction. I want you to share with me, if you have one, about a networking fail that you personally did, maybe back in the day, and I'll share one too, and I'll start. Okay. So here's my networking bonehead fail. All right. So I started my speaking career, so I'm trying to build up a speaking business, and I did this great networking event with a bunch of young leaders at Telus, which is a big telecom company in Canada. And it went so well that they went overtime by an extra half an hour. They delayed the next one. There were so many questions. And then the HR person came to me and said, Bobby, that was like one of the top 3 things I've ever seen. And we should talk more about what you can do with the organization. And I said, that's great. That's great. Let's do this. And I never reached out to her. It was the dumbest thing. I don't know why I didn't do it. Like, just like, this is a business opportunity. She wants to work with me. She said it was the top 3 ever. And what am I doing? I don't know why I didn't do anything. Whether I was ADHD or I just was nervous or I just didn't know what to say, or I felt weird about it. I don't know what happened. Anyway, I finally messaged her 6 months later, and of course, nothing happened after that one. But yeah, that was a pretty bonehead move to not pounce on that opportunity. How about you, Kenneth? Anything you want to share?
Well, besides the fact that I didn't have a great LinkedIn network, I made a mistake when I was in job search. It's a mistake which I think about every day. When I didn't get a job that I thought I was going to get, I was really pissed. And then I actually called up the hiring manager and I called up the recruiter and I said, why didn't I get the job? I wanted to know. And they went crazy. They're like, how dare you call me up? How dare you call me up? But what I learned from that lesson was there's nothing wrong with following up. They didn't want to hear from me because they assumed that they'd moved on and they weren't prepared. So it wasn't so much a networking fail for me, but it was for them. Networking works both ways. So what I learned over time was how to kind of smooth over what I'm going to say. And, like Sweta, I got in LinkedIn jail for sending out connection requests left and right. And you do what you have to do because you're not told otherwise. I mean, none of us taught us what to do. We figured it out on our own. And I think that's one of the things that we like to share with other people. It's learn from our mistakes and don't make those mistakes.
All right, Sweta, I'm sure you got a story. Help me out here. What do you got?
Oh my gosh, yes. One of the story was, till this day, I talk to my clients about it. So I got laid off, right? And then I was reaching out to the people. I built the list of people that they've seen my work in the previous company, but they've moved on. They quit or they got laid off or something like that. So I reached out to this executive that were really cool, so I knew him and he's seen my work. Very, very nice guy. So just I did not have any script, anything like that. So I just put it out there, whatever I could. So, hey, I got laid off and I am looking for these kind of role, right? If you have anything coming up, keep me in your mind. I look at the way that I networked as a new rookie job seeker at that time. We still actually talk about it. So, and he asked me, okay, what exactly is the title? Because I know that you were doing this, but would you still want to do this? Or have you figured out with what we have? It was the other bank, and have you figured out how do you transition from here to here? I think you'd be good at this and that, right? So in a way, he was kind of like helping me without telling me that, listen, you're not even clear on what you want. Because by the time I was laid off, I'd probably done like 4 or 5 different roles. And my mentality was, I can do those roles with my eyes closed. And that's what happens with a lot of people like us who's done so many roles. We feel like I can do everything. I'm like literally expert in everything. So the networking fail was that. And later on, obviously, I just went back and I apologized and I made it very clear to him. And I also invited him for my live show when he became one of the president in one of the bank. So I was like, he did take that to the heart because we're at that level. Sometimes a lot of executive would judge you, and that first impression is like they're never gonna talk to you. So that's why you only have first impression to get that lead, and I consider that as a fail, and that was a lesson for me. I mean, like you don't fail, you just learn the lesson, and as long as you have a people who can advocate for you still, and they can forgive you, but just learn it and do not ever do that again, just the way that I did it, right? Be clear on what you want. Don't make other people do the homework for you. That was a lesson for me.
The reason why I'm sharing these lessons of fails is it's learning, right? And I think that let people know that we've built expertise in this area, yet we've also made boneheaded moves back in the day, and sometimes they still happen. But I mean, the point is, it's okay, right? It's okay. These things are going to happen. I think it's a way to connect with us. And I want to let people know, like, there's some questions coming from the feed, which is great. This live stream is brought to you by the TLB Club, which is a membership community which I use to help people build their brands, build their voice. Work on sales funnels, work on networking, work on digital presence. If you want to learn more about TLB Club, check out that QR code and you can find more about it. There's already some questions, so I think I'm just going to jump to the questions, guys, and we'll go into it. So here's one right away from Ruth Lawrence. What do you suggest when navigating work searches if you're looking for work as an employee and also as a self-employed consultant? Thank you. We'll start with Kenneth and then Sweta, you can pipe in after that.
I mean, it's a little hard to do both at the same time. And I think that's going to be very confusing. I think it goes down to focus. What do you want to do? If you're looking for a gig right now because you need to pay the bills, and that's the way to go, fine. But I can speak from personal experience. I wanted to work as an employee for a long time after I was let go. And I went from consulting assignment to a consulting assignment. And after a while, people said, you've been consulting for a while. How are you going to be working full time? Now, if you're talking about being self-employed as having a side gig that has nothing to do with what you're going to do full time, that's a different discussion. And I think it's important to quantify what that means. We all have side gigs, and with the economy the way it is, you have to do that. But you have to be clear about what your value proposition is. And when you apply to a company, let them know up front if you are doing something on the side and if they ask, because there's nothing worse than them finding out on their own. So I don't know if that was the exact question answer that they wanted, but that's my 2 cents. And what about you, Sweta?
Yeah, that's a great point. You cannot target two different areas unless you're on that area where it mirrors one another, right? So for me, example was when I got hired for one of the within one of the employment services, which was a nonprofit. They hired me based on what they saw, my LinkedIn branding, also the networking outreach. I moved from the city called Toronto to Sudbury, which is literally like 5 hours away, which is north, and I had to plant the seed. Why am I the right fit, right? So I did heavy networking in the bilingual city, and then I went in there. I worked there, but I was self-employed as well a little bit later on, and that kind of became a conflict. And I didn't feel good about it too, which was like I posted every day. If you're one of those people who posted every day, who are heavily active on LinkedIn, your employers might be watching you. I kind of felt it, although nobody told me that. But every time I'm like rushing into the lunch break and posting it because that's my self-employment as well, right? I didn't feel good about it. So eventually I just, I was like, I'm going to quit, right? I quit. That could be conflict of interest as well if you do not disclose, to Kenneth's point. And a lot of industry you do have to sign up that waiver as well. If you are going to go and work for somebody else, you have to have that, and they have to approve as well. So make sure if it conflicts together or not. And with regards to if you're employee, if you're looking at the role outside and if you don't want your boss to know, then obviously you got to be discreetly reaching out to the people, not the people inside the organizations. Possibly I would reach out to the people who's left the organizations, and that's where I would start. Who has seen your work and who knows the environment, who knows you and who would advocate for you, right? I do believe that having a small pool of networking is helpful than having like 100 people. They're not going to advocate for you. It's not a numbers game. It's like who you talk to the right influencer who's seen you in existing environment, so they can totally go and vouch out for you. That's a thing I would recommend.
I mean, one thing I would say here is that, look, there's also a way to position yourself as an expert in something. So, for example, if I'm an employee engagement expert, okay, I can create a brand around the employee engagement piece, and then I get a job in employee engagement, And I even get some consulting or coaching gigs as an employee engagement specialist. So there's also a way to brand yourself in terms of what you talk about and what you're an expert in. So I think that's another thing to think about. I agree that the focus is important, but also there's a way to brand yourself a certain way. So that's something to keep in mind. More questions are coming out here. This is great. I'm going to see here. Another question coming up. This is from, it's covering my face. Okay, well, that's fine. Prasanti, it's okay. How do we start conversations and keep a meaningful relationship with professionals on LinkedIn platforms? Though I like their posts, the ultimate aim is we wanted them to remember us for any potential job opportunities or any growth. I'll start with you, Sweta, and we'll go to, and you can pass it over to Kenneth.
Yeah, Prashanti, that's a great question. And, I can totally relate to that. When I became a job seeker, after I got laid off, I developed the list of companies. First of all, here's what I would do, right? Number one step is, do you already have a targeted list of company based on your industry? Because it's going to be easy transition. Because anytime you actually change the industry, depending on your industry as well, that's kind of like pivoting, and you might have to reskill it, upscale it, upgrade or something like that. So I would probably start the easy transitions. Let's say if you work in the bank, identify top 10 banks that you want to be part of it. Identify one person who is flat hierarchy. What that means is the future colleagues, the people who you'd be working with, not reporting line. And then the influencer would be the future hiring manager and hiring managers. So when you are talking to the colleagues, obviously, right? When you go onto the LinkedIn profile, if they post it, if they're active, great. I would show up and start asking questions, right? And just support them. And a couple of times show up in the comments, beautiful comments on it, right? Take away from post and really be genuine and authentic too. And then hit them up with the DM, not like, hey, I'm looking for a job. What I would do is if they're working in the banking sector, you're in the IT sector, let's say, and you are actually going to go into the IT role, and you should have already identified the title. I would say something like, hey, what does this bank use in terms of technical tools? Do you use ServiceNow? Right? So things like that, right? So you just like small ask. And how did you learn about this? Right? And then, what happens on that? It's just, you're not asking anything, just small thing. That's how I would do it. When it comes to hiring managers, it's a different strategy. But again, at the same time, the small thing is talking to the people, not for networking, actually knowing what are they using the tools. And I'm giving you very specific example based on your industry, right? If you're in IT, ask about the tools, what kind of tools they use. Now, if you don't know, you go upgrade it, take a LinkedIn learning class, use that as information sessions. And guess what comes in? When the banking, same roles are being hired, you reach out to that person. By the way, I saw the posting on it. I feel like I'm really a qualified candidate. Do you know who the hiring manager is? Do you think that person's going to say, no, I'm not going to give you the hiring manager's name? You get the name. It's just to get the name, get the informations, right? And then if you really have good bonding together, then you can say, I've just applied. Do you get the referral bonus on it? Here's what I qualify for. I would love to put your name on it if it's okay with you. They get bonus too, right? We had that. We had that in the banking sector. Then you go out, build the connections without asking for a job, right? Hopefully that makes sense.
Kenneth, your take.
I think to kind of piggyback on what Sweta says, it's not just engaging on people's posts, but it's also engaging with the other people that engage on the posts, because you're going to have that commonality. Some of the best people I've met, we shared a common theme on someone's post, whether it's a hiring manager or a CEO or something. And I think another little known tool that I've used and recommend to people is create a poll on LinkedIn. Ask a question on LinkedIn, a general question. It could be job search related, and look at the feedback you get and be engaging. I think it's all about engaging with other people. And as an introvert, this is where I kind of shine. I can think about what I'm going to say. I can think about what I'm going to post. I can hide behind words. You don't have to see my face. I don't have to see yours. But then it's about having a follow-up conversation. Like, that's a great idea. And then maybe taking it offline. But you have to try. There is nothing wrong with someone rejecting you. There's nothing wrong with someone ignoring you. But if you don't try, it's not going to work. But I'm a big believer in engaging with the secondary connections, secondary people on a post. Realize a lot of the people don't even post. A lot of people don't even know how to post. A lot of people don't have time to post. So you're going to reach different people in different ways, but it's part of a whole strategy. There's no one right or wrong. You have to do what you need to do and find out what you're comfortable with. And I have failed. We have all failed, and we learn from our lessons. And that's the important thing. I believe you learn more from your failures sometimes from your successes. So that's my take, Bobby.
And I think there's something to be said about, persistence and consistency and patience, guys. I mean, look, it's not going to happen overnight. So you have to be willing to, keep at it and be consistent and start to get noticed. I mean, I can tell you that when I posted content on LinkedIn, no one noticed until the seventh post. I posted one tip every day, and the seventh one, someone finally said something. When I send messages out to people, or I comment and post, some people weren't engaging, and then eventually some people did. So I think it's important to be mindful of that as we do that. So let's keep going with more. There's lots of questions, man. I love this. Thanks so much, everybody, for being here. Check out the comments, follow each other. Again, this is brought to you by the TLB Club. If you want to learn more about the TLB Club, we do a weekly Zoom masterclass with a guest expert speaker. It's every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern. You're welcome to come by anytime, check it out, meet the members, meet the guest expert speaker, and see what it's all about. Here's another question. All right, this one. How can one leverage these upcoming AI tools? Resume prep from ChatGPT is already helping, but what are the ways we can leverage AI tools to receive interview calls and discover those hidden jobs? Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so I'll go to Sweta first, and then she can pass on to Kenneth.
Yeah, so I'd love to know about it when you're talking about hidden jobs. What are you talking about? Because I'm one of those person who disagree with 80% jobs are hidden, not posted, and it may depend. There's no one size fits all, right? Disclaimer there. As a hiring managers in the company that I'm working with, especially very reputed company, I cannot just go and say, hey, do you want to work for me? I have to meet with the resources planning, workforce planning, making sure that headcounts are there. And I cannot just hire whenever I want to, unless some person's going to quit on me, but I still have to make a case. We sit down with the intake meeting with the recruiters, talent acquisition teams that are assigned. It's a lengthy process, right? So when you're talking about hidden jobs, I would love to know more on it. What industry are you an executive, right? Or are you in a very niche talent market, like marketing, advertising, and things like that? So I would want you to focus on what's out there, which has been posted, and target those kind of jobs if you really qualify for it, and then maybe talk to the hiring manager, build a networking that way. Because if you just keep on waiting for hidden jobs just because you see the myth 80% jobs are hidden out there, it might not apply to you, right? So be qualified for the role. And obviously I have a lot of material on the ChatGPT. How do you work around the AI and ChatGPT to get that interview? It's on a YouTube channel, Teach and Do. I also have a networking script, by the way, if you want to know, which I did it for myself and I share with my clients as well. DM me and I'll send you my script that has an outline of it. When you're reaching out to the hiring manager, even if it's a hidden job, let's say the job would be posted, you heard it somewhere, the department is growing and they're probably interviewing you strategically, coffee chat or something, right? I'll give you that template as well. Reach out to me on LinkedIn, and then I'll do that for you. So the AI tool is great when you become very clear on it. I want to put it out there. When you're not clear on what you want and you don't know how to use the prompt, it's going to be fail. It's going to be fail. Like no hidden jobs out there is going to come to you at all if you don't know what you want. That's the first step. And when you're reaching out to the managers, right? You're still not asking for a job. You're not saying, hey, are you going to be posting soon? You're going to have an information interview. It's not a networking. There's a difference between networking and information interview. It's like, when is the hiring coming up? When do they normally hire? Where do they post it? If the department is, moving, growing, and what are the companies you're targeting? Startups, the top companies, right? So maybe startups are hiring for hidden jobs. This is where you got to talk to the founders. This is where you got to talk to the VPs and executive, because they might be posting for the role internally, or they'll be hiring, through the referral and stuff like that, right? So I would love for you to drop it down here. Why you just like that just triggers me. Hidden jobs just triggers me overall, right? I would love to know more on that. Why did you drop that hidden jobs?
Over to Kenneth. Go ahead. Help yourself.
I think there's a tendency to rely too much on AI and ChatGPT for a lot of the questions that come up now. I think it's a great reference tool. I think it's great to, if you can be as specific as possible, but I think it brings up the other discussions to exactly what a hidden job is. I mean, a hidden job is a job that may be out there, but it may not be posted for the world to see. And that's where you really have to build out your network. I think the most important thing you can do is look at ChatGPT and all the AI tools as a reference tool, but they're not going to get you a job. They're not going to give you that magic potion. It's like people that use ChatGPT for a resume or a LinkedIn connection request or in a bat section. It's a reference tool. I think it's so much more important. If you have a company in mind, and you have a job in mind, ask people in your network if they know of jobs. I probably get 5 to 10 leads a day from people in my network that are looking for people to fill jobs, and they trust me, and I can forward those to other people. It's not that I'm hiding them from everyone else. I just don't know what you want to do. And I think all of us, we all look for the greater good. I think one of the things we get stuck on, or even the definition of all these terms, networking is a very overwhelming term. Hidden jobs is a very overwhelming term. That's not to say the job market stinks out there, but you can leverage certain things to your strengths. And I think using LinkedIn and other tools the right way is a perfect way to do that. From a reference standpoint, absolutely. But as Sweta said, if you just put a prompt in there and you get back, it's bad data in, bad data out, no matter what. And I think you want to be very, very intentional with what you do. So that's my take, Bobby.
Yeah, and I think, look, AI tools and ChatGPT are actually quite helpful in many, many ways. But remember, it's a support tool. It's a resource that you use and leverage for different things, whether it's learning how to optimize aspects of your resume, to prepare for an interview, to research the company that you're going, or research the person and knowing what kind of things to talk about. But at the end of the day, the human response and something that's clearly not AI will benefit you as you're trying to talk to folks. So we do appreciate all these great questions. There's lots of great questions out here as well. I think that some more questions are coming up here. And again, as always, make sure you follow Sweta and Kenneth. They're doing some really great stuff here. They're giving their time. Make sure you give them a lot of love and feel free to chat more with them. Another question I see coming up here is, oh yeah, this one, here we go. And of course, I'm going to cut out my face here, but just wanted to ask, how do you keep your mental health so strong? Life's ups and downs and challenges of work don't take a toll on you. Are there any activities, habits, or strategies you use to stay resilient and balanced no matter what comes? Kenneth, I'll give it to you and you can pass on.
I think if COVID taught us anything, it was that you had to prioritize things in life. I mean, what I started to do then, and I was actually in transition before I started a business, is I gave myself grace. I took time off. I didn't go on calls. I would take 2 or 3 hours to do absolutely nothing. I would start exercising. I would start talking to people, and I started making family a priority. I think the most important thing is your job is a job, but work-life balance is so important. And it's okay to have a day where you're not doing well. And job search may be a full-time thing, but you're allowed to give yourself time off. Last year was the first time I did what I'll call digital detox. I was off this platform for a week at a time. I didn't want to engage. I just wanted to enjoy life. And I think being upfront about it is something we're able to do more now. But the main thing I recommend is you take care of yourself first, whether it's food or diet or exercise, because otherwise you're no good if you're going to be looking for a job. And I would start with, on your calendar, just give yourself an out of the office for 3 or 4 hours at a time. When you're out of the office, even if you're doing nothing but just vegging out, there's nothing wrong with that. I think one thing that when you apply for a job is you want to ask about the work-life balance too. There's a whole big issue about people being forced to go back to the office. And if that doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. It's part of being who you are. And I'd be curious to know what you have to say, Sweta.
I have very close family members who are going through that rough phases as we speak right now. And what I've learned from them is everyone is different. Everyone is different. I can tell them, read a book, go for meditations, do some yogas, and do this, do that. And eventually it's not going to be me who's suffering for it, right? Because we as a friend, loved one, we just give them so many tips and everything. So what I've realized is finding out the root cause and getting help from therapists. That would work. It's been working out for them. So, I mean, my only suggestion would be is finding out the root cause of it, why it's happening. Have you identified that? And putting a list together what triggers you, what's happening. Because mental health is so big. Like, what's happening? Are you overwhelmed? Do you have self-doubt? Do you have a problem with the confidence? You got to write it down. And then what triggers it? When does it trigger and everything like that? And then honestly, go and get the help from the counseling people who really are expert on this. And because there's no one size fits all for anybody, including the mental health issues that you've been dealing with. And I'm sorry that you've been going through it, but you need to get some help from the right people. And unfortunately, I'm not the right one even to tell you, do this, do that. The only thing I can tell you is write down what triggers that, build a list of it, and it's going to be helpful for you to get help. If you're in Canada, there's like free services. If your work has insurance policy, you're covered on it too. So find out those as well and see if they can support you as well.
I would just say one thing. Empathy, you want to be, the whole idea of mental health and job search is a very underutilized discussion. Everyone, we talk about how to apply for a job, how to use LinkedIn, how to do that. But there's a separate emotional and mental health aspect to this. And I think the more we call that out, the better, because that helps everyone in general. So I just wanted to say that, Bobby. I didn't mean to interrupt, so go ahead.
No, it's fine. And so what I'll say is this: look, your mental health is the foundation of what you're trying to do, and it's something we all struggle with. And so I think it's okay to understand that. And there's different ways, and I think you have to invest in that and give yourself self-care, give yourself the breaks, as some of the experts have said, and seek the help. Because the truth is, look, a better you is a better everything else. The better you are, the better you can network, the better your brand, the better your relationships, the better everything. And so the different things that I would do, number one, having a support system. So, having my family, my friends I can talk to, a coach that I talk to. I have my TLB community where we talk to each other and support each other, having that support systems in place. Number two, depending on how serious it is, you can always ask for help. I think that's important. Number three, having mental mindset frameworks for how you reposition things. Like, so for example, let's say you get rejected for a job, right? Mm-hmm. So, I always say rejection is just redirection, right? So now this one's rejected and you move on to the next one. What are you trying to do? And then the last thing I'll say is, at the end of the day, forgive yourself, get a good night's sleep. Tomorrow's another day. And it's okay to just let that go and don't feel bad about it. So we're talking about networking for your job search. We're asking, the three experts are here to share their knowledge, and people are asking tons of questions, which is great. We love the questions. And let's get to the next one. Although, actually, before we get to another question, let me go back to you guys. I want to get into Sweta. You mentioned something that your opinion was a little bit different on things. So I think it'd be interesting to talk about, do we have ideas or advice around networking for job searches that maybe is not popular or not along the lines of what most people might think? So I'd love for you, Sweta, to share that a bit more about what you're talking about, and then I'll pass on to Kenneth, and maybe I'll come up with something too.
Yeah, I think I can probably talk about from my lived experience that what worked for me. And obviously I've talked about what, sending DM to strangers and picking their brain and stuff like that did not work for me. And obviously it probably works for somebody else, right? So I'm not going to say that strategy is like down the drain as well, but do what works for you. But you need to know that if you feel good about it, if you feel, with my clients, in my one size doesn't fit all program, is some people feel like it's icky to reach out to the strangers and just knock the door and even start that conversations. Some people are like, oh my God, I would rather do that all day and DM them than meeting them in a person, right? So everyone's style and personality is different. I'm an extrovert. I don't mind reaching out to them in DM, and I love talking to them in person. So I always wanted to talk to them in person if I had a chance. One thing that I tried, it really worked out, and it was when I was moving to the new city, I wanted to work into the contact center because I had that background. So I reached out to the people who had a contact, and I said, do you have anyone in here? They're growing, and I feel like I might be the right fit. I don't know if they're going to be posting the job yet, but I really want to know what are the tools they're using it. I want to feel the vibe. And the guy was like, he was an executive. He introduced me right away. Okay, you know what, I'm gonna pass you on to the VP and you can go from there. I was like, great. So recruiter reached out to me, and I straight up asked to recruiter, can I come in to do the touring contact center? I just want to feel, you guys are doing amazing. You are new. I would love to get a touring of it. And I didn't ask you, are you hiring anything? I was like, I just moved. I just want to know. It was gutsy move. I did not know if it's going to happen or not. Then I went in there and then I did the touring and everything. Later on, I didn't like the vibe, right? So sometimes it's okay to ask for touring. Can you walk me around, right? And I think that's a strategy. If you can in person, do it. And if it's not you, you don't want to do it, then talk about what are they working on? What are the new project coming up, right? So you would know when are they going to be hiring, and also are you interested to work with them as well, right? Without asking for it. That works for me. Instead of just sitting down and sending like, hey, can I have a coffee chat or pick your brain? Because I still don't find it's a networking. It's like I'm being selfish. Why would someone give me 20 minutes of time for no reason, right? So that doesn't work for me. So me is straight to the point. Can you tour? Can I get a tour? Can I get a tour of your cafeteria? Can I meet you up, right? These are the things, and I can show you how can you control that call time in the contact center. I have a deck for you. Here it is. Can we meet and chat about it? I just need 20 minutes, right? That's what I used to do.
See, for me, and I'm going to speak as an introvert now a little bit. The hardest thing for me to do is to go out to an in-person event. When I would go there and all these people would be there, I'd be that person who was on the wallflower. And what I decided to do one day is I took my best friend with me. He was actually working at the time, but we came along. We were just having a chat about things, and all of a sudden, people came by to us because they thought we were having a conversation. And it was easier for me to be at an event with someone I knew, and I was just like having a conversation somewhere else. So I would recommend, when you go out with a wing person, go out with someone who can be there and just have a chat with you, and it will make it that much easier. When I was out of work initially, also, I started volunteering for things I really cared about, volunteering with people that I wasn't looking to get a job, with, but just to practice my ability to build relationships. And it did help in time because I felt good about myself and I felt good about the work I was doing. But above everything else, it got me out of the house. The important thing is, you can be in front of a laptop or a screen all day and think you're doing anything, but it's not the same thing as going out and being part of the world. There's nothing wrong with going out and just having a conversation with someone or just going to an event, because everyone is trying to do the same thing. We're trying to build relationships. And I think that's really what job search is. It's about building relationships. As an introvert, we have different challenges. One of the first calls I had with an extrovert, I could not keep up. I was going crazy.
Was that me?
No, actually, it was Lauren Greif. It was Lauren Greif.
It was me.
And Lauren Greif was running around like crazy. And I said to Lauren when it was over, I said, Lauren, I can't keep up. Let's just have a conversation. And we kind of made fun about it. But it was just understanding that there's no one right or wrong to life. You have to be who you are. And I was very diplomatic. I said it very nicely, Bobby, I think you're an extrovert. But when we met in person, it was like two people. We met in the city.
Right.
And it was just a wonderful thing. Just a bunch of people friendly. We weren't talking about work. We were just talking about life.
And speaking of networking, I mean, look at these relationships. I have a really good relationship with Sweta and Kenneth. And Kenneth, we met online in Clubhouse, and we only met once in person in New York City 2 years ago. Sweta, I love Sweta. We've never actually met in person, even though we're both in Canada, and they gotta change that at some point. So I'll share one thing that's different for me. So one thing that people do, that my first connections, even my close connections, and say, hey, I'm looking for a job in cybersecurity. Just think of me. Let me know if you have any ideas. And like, look, I am not in the business of looking for a job right now. So therefore, I'm never going to be able to do that for you. Like, how many people I know who are real estate agents or photographers or consultants or coaches, whatever it might be, they all say, yeah, this is what I'm doing. Think of me if you got any some leads. And I'm like, look, and so here's what I do with first connections who, are really close to me and invest in that relationship. I'll say, look, let's get on a call for 15 minutes. And what I'll do with them is I'll actually go through my LinkedIn contacts. I'll put in some search parameters of people they want to connect with. And then I'll get them to make a list of 10, 20 people. I say, you know what? Now go research those people. Come back to me with your top 5 lists. And depending on how close that person is to me, I'll say, look, whatever your top 5 list is, I will then decide who I think is the best 1, 2, or 3 people, and I will make introductions for you. That to me is far more effective than just say, think of me for these jobs. Like it's not going to happen. So that to me is a one that comes up a lot. Got another question coming up here, guys. Now the election is over and we're in Q1. What is your perspective on hiring now? Anybody want to take a stab at that one? Has it changed? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
Go ahead, Kenneth.
I'm a little bit in a sour mood after the words with Meta now about them laying off the underperformers, which is a buzzword for me as to people that are older and they want to hire younger people. I just think you're not really going to know what's going on. I mean, my perspective is that there is no way to know what's going to happen. To be honest, I think networking is going to always be the key. I think the most important thing is that you have a robust network and you just stay in touch with people because you never know. I do think some industries are going to be better than others. I think AI is hot, but I don't think anyone really knows what AI means. It's a buzzword. There's a lot of buzzwords out there. I think what you're going to see is a lot more people pretty much doing their own thing because they don't want to deal with work anymore and work-life balance. But again, these are guesses. I don't think anyone really knows what's going to happen because most companies are all waiting for each other to see what's going to happen first. I mean, the whole going back to work thing, Amazon, now Meta, and those other places, it's nothing more than having to take care of real estate and control, in my opinion, over the employees. But again, I'm not a sociologist. I'm just a job search guy here in northern New Jersey telling it like it is. What about you, Sweta?
Yeah, great point. Nobody knows. And what I want to talk about is when you're asking question as such, what do you think about hiring now? Yes, sometimes the hiring is going to be frozen based on the new, the legislations, rules and law, whatever it is. And I can speak from a Canadian perspective. Let's say I've always talked to my clients about it. When you say, what is it like? When do you think the company is going to be busy hiring? I would say, I don't know. But I can teach you how do you find out, right? So I came from the corporate environment, the banking environment. I've managed people in deposit. I've managed people in, the mortgages. So I know, let's say if someone's going to ask me about, what do you think about the hiring for this particular role? If they're in mortgages, I would say, you know what? Normally this pumps up during this time. It's a summertime. But again, it might not be happening because the Bank of Canada rates are coming down, right? It's continuously coming down. Overnight rates are coming down. So now people are going back to investing in real estate, not as much as they were doing it a couple of years ago when it was booming, right? People are waiting for renovations in summer because the rates are going to go down soon. That's what we're protecting, right? So you also have to know what kind of role you're in. If you're in construction, it's not summer. The roles are particularly dead. And maybe there are some roles, if you're a hands-on contractor, it's going to be booming exactly in summer. This is where people are going to be hiring. And you cannot wait until summer to do the networking. You should already be networking now, right? Don't wait until the hiring dates. It's too late. There are other people, they're ahead of you because they've done the great homework. They've targeted the company. They actually clicked on, I'm interested on LinkedIn and company. Do you know how to do that? If you don't know how to do that, you want to work for them, I have a YouTube channel, go and see it, how to do it, right? Also, are you following the company as well? So you end up in a recruiting tool. Are you networking with the recruiter? Do you have a connections? It's a part of networking because when the recruiters are looking you up on a LinkedIn tool, they look at how many connections you have. And there's a way to do it as well, right? So do you know all those networking strategy? Now listen, guys, networking is not only reaching out to the people, right? Forget about that. Networking is how do you end up in recruiter search as well by bringing connections from that company. So when they search you, they know you're a company follower. They know that they have a connections within the company. That's a trust factor. And that's how the LinkedIn algorithm is driven. You are their leads. How do you become their leads without even saying hi to the recruiter? You got to learn that. If you don't know how to do it, I have a blog. Send me the message. I'll send it to you for free.
Thanks for that, guys. And again, we're getting near the end of our hour here, and there's already tons of other questions. As always, this is brought to you by the TLB Club, which is a membership community. If you want to learn about leadership, personal branding, networking, mindset, speaking, storytelling, content strategy, all that kind of, or even how land a TEDx talk. I encourage you to check out the TLB Club, come to one of our weekly events, and you'll learn more about it. There's actually so many questions. I don't think we're going to get to them all. So I think that's going to be a bit of a challenge, but I'm going to do one that's going to cover my face. Here we go. It is, how to begin a conversation with people in your network whom you have been in touch with, but you want to say hello and see if they might have people they have people they might connect with you with. For example, I wanted to contact someone who once worked on a freelance basis and don't want to say outright, can you help me? I'll send that to you, Kenneth. What do you think about that one?
I think there's nothing wrong with building relationships and having a conversation. I think it's it's the words that you use to say it, because the mistake that people make is when you send a request or reach out to someone after 6 or 7 years, their antennae are going to be up like, oh my God, this person's looking for a job for me. They're looking for something from me. So I think it's more about just having, like, checking in. How are things going? I noticed you're here. Let me tell you what I'm doing, and taking it from there. I mean, I had a former senior manager that I reported to that reached out to me for job search help. And it was just by having conversations. How are things going? How are things going? Sharing some commonality. Networking is a long game. It's not going to happen with one quick message or one quick thing. And I think that's the thing that people actually lose sight of. It's just it's something you have to do every day. I mean, I still network like crazy just because I want to, and I'm not looking for a job per se, but that's what it's all about. Even you, Bobby, and you, Sweta, we all try to stay in touch. One thing I will say before this call ends: if you're reaching out to people that are family and friends in California, or if they're in California and they don't get back to you, there's a reason why. And you may not know the reason why, and they may not be able to tell you. So that's where the empathy comes in. We're not all immune to what's going on in life. So that's how I'd like to end it. Sweta, what about you?
I'm good with that. As a freelancer, if I had to reach out to the people and ask for help, it's not going to be me, as you said, hey, I am looking for this. I would genuinely want to know, what are they doing? How did they get there? What are the sources? I would probably say, ask those questions and give them opportunity. Are you able to hop in for 10 minutes call to go through it? If not, then that's fine. I would ask those questions, make it very simple. How did you get there? What kind of deals are you getting in it? Stuff like that. And a lot of people don't share the information too, right? So you really have to pick the right people, and you would know by asking questions. So I remember, Bobby, if you remember, I keep on coming back to it. When I started to do the brand deals, I didn't come here on social media to get the brand deals, but it just so happened, like, one of the major company job sites, they reached out to me for doing the LinkedIn Live, and they quoted me the amount, and I was like, is it even better deal? I don't know. I don't want to say yes or no. I reached out to Bobby and said, what's the speaker rate? Straight up. He was great. He's like, okay, what are you charging? I'm charging this. You're on the good side. And I'm like, great. So you need to know if the people are going to help you. So I'm surrounded by those people when I reach out. Those are freelancer. Anything comes up, I'm going to ask them, what are your rates? What are you doing? Is there any recommendation for me? So try it out and ask straight questions if you want to be there, and say, do you see me? Can you recommend me? Stuff like that. There's nothing. The answer is going to be no if you don't ask. Everywhere, right? So start small and go with a bigger ask.
Yeah, no, that's great insights, guys. And I think that I'll tell you a quick story, which is, I tried to reach out to Daniel Roth, who was the editor in chief of LinkedIn, and it's very difficult to get his attention. When he does a post and comment on it, sometimes he responds, but when you send him a DM, nothing happens, and it's kind of hard to reach out. But I'll tell you what's interesting. Sometimes I go on other platforms. There are certain people on LinkedIn who are on other platforms. They might be on Twitter, they might be on Instagram or TikTok. And when I send them a DM there, I sometimes have success. So a good example, someone reached out to me on Twitter and I started a conversation and it worked. They got my attention. Another time I reached out one time to Daniel Roth on Instagram, and I DM'd him and he replied, right? So, and what I found is that certain platforms that people are willing to reply, and it's really interesting kind of how that works. So,
can I add on, Bobby? Can I add on?
Go for it.
I'm going to tell you this. I tried my luck, okay? Every year, I started this campaign for API community, South Asian Amplifying the Voice. Every May, I look at it, and, South Asians' voices are just just suppress whatever it is. They just don't feel like they need to amplify South Asian. I'm from Southeast Asia, right? So I was like, screw this. I'm just going to reach out to the people that I feel like they could be part of it. They should have a South Asian heritage. And I'm going to do my own event. So I reached out to LinkedIn editors, to the award-winning journalists in Canada, to like, you name it. So many people, LinkedIn top voices and everything, TED speaker, including Bobby and everything. I just started and everyone's like, yeah, you know how that happened? I didn't reach out overnight to them. I was networking with them, meaning like I was supporting their content. I was on their Twitter, retweeting their, journalism point of view. I was adding comments and everything, right? They kind of knew me already. We had that great relationship already built in. When I reached out, I got the speaker for my event last year in no time. We were nine of us, right, Bobby, all together. So it was all done because I showed up to support them without asking. I didn't even think I would need them, but they said yes, right? So don't be intimidated by this top, let's say the title. LinkedIn editors, 2 of them were here speaking on my event. It was like, are you seriously kidding me, right? So sometimes just show up for them, give it 100%. Do not expect anything back. And when you need them, they can see it. Honestly, just do that. And then feel good about it. So you're not being selfish either. And they cannot say no to you because you've done so much for them already to support their content.
Love that. Thanks so much, guys. And as we're nearing the end, I'd love to give you guys a chance to share a bit about yourself again. So let's kind of end off this thing by, number one, remind us, who you serve, share your one final tip for today, and then maybe a call to action to, where to follow you and stuff like that. So I'll start with you, Kenneth, and then we'll go to Sweta.
Hi, I focus for the most part on the 45 and older job seekers. I work at Leah Harris as a brand specialist. One of my main goals this year is to try to get people to think outside the box and try things that they're willing to take a chance on and not work. And that's okay. We've all been down the road before of things that have been successful and there have been failures. My one takeaway for today is just get started on this platform. Just get started networking, reach out to people, but be specific on what you want. Don't just say, I'd like to know about job A. The more specific you can get, the better. And it's okay if they don't get back to you. It's a numbers game, but be as specific as possible. I've met so many great people here, some in person, some on Zoom, some on audio, and that's what it's all about. It's about building relationships. So thank you, Bobby, very much for today. I appreciate it very much. And Sweta, I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, so when it comes to networking, always start with your SWOT, which is what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what is a threat that could potentially come in your way. Also the areas of opportunity that you can learn, and it's by asking questions. How can I learn? How can I upgrade the skills? Once you become clear on that, what you want, title and industry, it becomes very easy to reach out to the people. What are you looking for? So start with that. Be very clear on career clarity. Now, if you don't know how to do that exercise, then I do have a free webinar, free class, free career clarity class. I teach you inside with my signature model called Rich Strategy. It's in my bio right now. It's all over stamped in there, teachingyou.com/webinar. If you can't find it, I did something wrong with my personal branding, but reach out to me on DM and I'll send it to you. You also get the workbook as well. That becomes very clear, and that's a practice for you before you start to do the networking. And second thing is, if you are underprivileged, let's say immigrants or diaspora community that you just moved new in Canada or States, this is my type of market that I serve in, who are really qualified, but then for whatever reason, you're not getting ahead in this new country. So I do serve that community, and reach out to me. Let's talk and see if I can help you bounce back. Also, I have a podcast named Career Challenges, Diaspora's Career Challenges, where I talk about the struggles as an immigrant, what we go through, how do we fight back, biases and discriminations. Feel free to subscribe to that channel as well. But Bobby, thank you so much for bringing it together. One is an introvert, 2 of us are extrovert. Hopefully we didn't kill you today.
No.
Thank you. It was great.
And let me just share a few things here. Like, look, I help people who are feeling lost, stuck, unfulfilled, find clarity, purpose, and direction with their personal brand, and then to build a thought leadership brand with their speaking, with their TEDx talks, with their book launch, with their content strategy, and that's kind of what I'm doing. And a couple things are happening for me. Right now I have a TEDx event coming up next week. There's the QR code. It's called the 5-Day TEDx Challenge. You get 1 hour each day with me, plus replays, plus resources, plus the community to give you the process and models of how to land a TEDx talk in 2025 that's going to elevate your brand. So that's something that I'm doing right now. The other thing, of course, is the TLB Club, which is a membership community. We have weekly coaching calls. We have a masterclass. We have a library of 190 masterclass sessions from the best experts out there who have delivered some really amazing content for folks. You get access to that as a member. You also get a private LinkedIn group, private WhatsApp group to ask questions, get feedback on things 24/7. It's an amazing community of really like-minded, hard-based individuals who are trying to level up in all areas of their life and career. So I encourage you to check that out. And also, I mentioned that on February 7th, we're actually doing a workshop on live streams, audio rooms, and Zoom meetings, and how to make them effective, how to do the tech setup, and how to maximize them for your community building. And if you want to learn more about that, that workshop's actually on the TLB website, but it's $67. But if you join the TLB club, you get access to it for free. So just something to think about. And again, I want to thank my guests, Sweta Regmi and Kenneth Lang. You guys are really awesome. You guys have been fantastic friends and colleagues, and it's just been a really great time chatting with you. Make sure this stream is there's a replay here, so you can look at the replay anytime you want. You can tag these guys. You can actually share your best things that you learned from this talk today, and you can even tag us and ask more questions. So continue to do that. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.